Hello and welcome to the G-Man Show on season finale, season 1, episode 5, the finale of today's season. And today I will be fulfilling a promise I made from the very first time I started this podcast, and that was interviewing an author. So I have the author here, and say hello.
Hi, my name is Jerry.
So I have a list of questions for you today that my friends and family have sent in. So basically, a little introduction. This author has published a book about how to craft dolls that actually got published, and she wrote a children's story called Cattail and Paw Pals that got rejected 9 times. With that out of the way, welcome to this episode of the G-Man Show. Alright, so I have the list of questions here. First question is, what inspired you to make the book about dolls?
Well, at the time, my children were young, and I wanted to figure out how to start a craft business. And this product, was called Paper Twist. It came like in a ball, and you can get it in many colors. And I just was playing around with it, and I ended up creating like these dolls from it. I started going to craft shows. We lived in Maine at the time, and they were very popular and sold quite a bit.
Okay, nice. The second book is, why do you think your book was the Cattail and Paw Pals book? Why do you think your book was rejected 9 times?
Well, most of the publishers that I had sent it to said that it wasn't the type of children's book that they wanted to publish at that time.
Why do you think that is?
To be honest, I'm not quite sure because it was all about the animals losing their homes because of the forest being cut down by logging companies. So it was a fun story of them getting together to try and stop that from happening.
Yeah, the animals could talk in that book, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because you got rejected so many times by publishers, do you have any intentions of self-publishing your book?
I am thinking about it, and my grandson wants me to do it. I just need to figure out how to do it. And the book that I wrote is kind of long. I feel like it needs to be edited to make it a little bit shorter.
That's true. Before you came, I actually read a printout version of that book, and it was very good, but I will admit it was a little wordy.
Yeah.
How did the doll book sell?
That during the time, and just like with any crafts, there's a popularity at the different times that a product comes out. And at the time, after I got a company, I can't remember the name of the company, but they were out of Utah, and they published the book, and it went into market, into different stores, craft stores, and it did sell. But eventually, that product wasn't that popular anymore. So when that happens, then a book, yeah, then people really didn't buy the book any longer.
Did you enjoy being an author/illustrator?
Yes, it was very fun to do. I like the illustration part.
What year did you write the doll book in, if you can remember?
That would have been, well, it was probably in the 90s, 1990s, probably maybe 92 or 93, somewhere's in there.
Okay, do you know when Cattail Paw Pals was written?
Around that time, same time, in the 90s.
Alright. Yeah. I know, because you wrote the book back in the 90s, was it hard, like, printing it out? Because they didn't really have self-printers back then.
We did not have computers or printers. No, I had to use a typewriter. And I had to go to there was no internet. I had to go to the library and look up all the publishing companies for children's books and their addresses. And then I had to do everything by hand. There was no email. There was nothing like that. I had to make copies on a copier, like at the library. and then send them copies of everything.
Wow.
It was a lot of work. A lot more work than
It sounds
today's.
like it.
Yeah.
Would you for any young authors maybe watching this, do you have any tips for the audience if they are wanting to be even an artist, because I know you are an artist?
I feel like if you have an idea for a book for children or any kind of book, is to pursue your idea. And nowadays with the internet and everything, it's a little easier to get your product in front of the people that might publish it.
By chance, when you got those rejection letters, did they say the drawings were good? Because I looked at the artwork and it's very stunning and phenomenal.
Actually, I think one of them did mention that they liked the drawings, but
I have a theory, because you said the book was about them stopping tree cutting, correct? So maybe it's just they don't want to serve that message. I don't know.
Maybe at the time, at that time when I wrote it, they were doing, and I lived in Maine at the time, and they were doing a lot of logging in the area I lived in. So that happens in certain areas of the country because we need the wood, so they have to cut down the trees, of course. But I think the idea of the book came to me because I had my two children were small, and I just thought that would be a good story to try to get that generation to know what's going on.
Okay. And when you once you got the rejection letters, did you ever try to change the story, come up with more ideas?
No, I didn't try to change the story.
Would you nowadays? Would you try to self-publish, or would you keep it the same?
Well, I would try to keep it pretty much the same, but a shorter. I did think that maybe some of the rejection might have been because it was too long of a story.
Because you want to make it like a kid's picture book, correct?
Right. So I definitely think that it needs to be shortened up.
If you were to publish the book, what stores would you want it in? Or would you want it only digital, or would you like it
I'd like it both ways because I think the trend to reading a hard copy book is still strong out there. So people like to have the actual book, but there's the Audible books that people like to do now. Yeah.
Stuff. Would you ever have intention of making like a chapter book? That was one of the main questions I got. Like a novel-ish.
I'm not sure I have that ability to write a novel.
More like picture books is what you're going for?
Because I like doing. I think I would trend more towards children's books.
Now I don't. Now one of my friends sent in this question. This is kind of crazy. But if you let's just pretend for a second. What if your book got published all over the world? It's a smash hit, becomes a bestseller. Would you have intention of making a movie for that book?
Oh, I think it would be a fun movie, actually. I think
like an animated movie.
Yeah, I think it could turn into, with the right scriptwriter, I think it could turn into a movie that kids would like.
Yeah, I agree. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the G-Man Show, and see you later.